Lou here. Now, winter 2021 has been a wild year for anime, with returning seasons of many highly acclaimed anime like Cells at Work, Attack on Titan, and Re:Zero. Of course, this doesn't mean that there's no new stories this season. There's been quite a few new and fresh stories coming to life with this anime season, but that doesn't mean all of them are good. One of these new original anime is Skate Leading Stars, a very obvious bootleg of Yuri on Ice. Now, if you're new to this channel, which I recommend you subscribe because I'm a simp for pretty boys, but Yuri on Ice is one of my favorite anime of all time. It talked about a lot of subjects I've yet to see many sports anime talk about, and that's being an actual adult with major anxiety instead of the millionth I'm a rebel high school student. I mean, I'm not fully saying it's a bootleg of Yuri on Ice because it happens to be a figure skating anime, but you have to admit something's fishy here when the original release date for Yuri on Ice's movie was supposed to be last year before they had to push it back for the millionth time. I mean, I'm just saying. Though I'm still gonna draw comparisons because literally everyone else is making comparisons, so damn it, I will too. Anyway, let's check out this anime because it is literally the worst anime of this year already. Roll the intro and let's get started. Skate Leading Stars is an original anime made by the studio JC staff, whose previous works include Food Wars, the second season of One Punch Man, Love Stage, and pretty much every adaptation of generic harem fantasies known as light novels. The anime was directed by Taniguchi Goro, who's the creator of Code Geass, and did a handful of storyboards for other popular anime like Space Dandy and Yu-Gi-Oh! Character designs were done by Yana Toboso, the creator of Black Butler, so that's why some characters may look a little too similar to either Twisted Wonderland or Black Butler. It was supposed to release during the summer anime season, but due to current world events, it had to be delayed until the winter. Though it would eventually release on January 10th, 2021, with all articles talking about how it's similar to Yuri on Ice or reminds them of it or that it exists, while listing way more popular and more interesting anime this season like Attack on Titan and Wonder Egg Priority. Alright, let's start with the story. Maeshima Kensei is the son of two figure skaters who died in a car accident when he was just a kid, but took up figure skating a month or so later to try and make his grandparents happy. Does that sound like an interesting backstory? Okay, now throw that in the garbage because that's as interesting as our lead character is going to get, and none of that tragic backstory actually reflects on Maeshima. After constantly losing to his rival, Shinozaki Reo, he quits. Shinozaki is a prodigy in figure skating who's pretty cold and emotionless. Except here's the thing, we're told he's cold. We never actually get a moment of his character outside of yes or no questions and very brief social interactions. This makes Shinozaki what I call a trophy rival. Essentially, he's a rival who stands there and looks pretty just to make our hot-headed protagonist mad instead of actually doing something to establish a proper rivalry. They're just telling you that they're rivals with generic lines of "you're not good enough" instead of actually showing them being real rivals towards each other. Show us this kid being a jerk, and I don't mean later in the series with one episode left. Show us in the first episode this kid bullying our main character, maybe have him insult his parents by saying they were runner-up skaters, insult that he's an orphan, insult his grandparents, or something that could spark a rivalry. They kind of try to in the last few episodes by making him secretly crazy or something, but it ends up feeling like one of those last-minute attempts at trying to make something interesting. Maeshima quits figure skating, and years later he decides to copy other sports and other people's movements. That's his special talent, by the way. He copies other people's signatures, which he's basically a tracer of the figure skating community. Well, out of the fucking blue, this guy just walks up to him and tells him he should figure skate again for his sake. Why? They both don't like Shinozaki. Wait, why wait years later to show up to this guy? I have no fucking clue. Well, this guy is Sasugai Hayato, and he's Shinozaki's younger half-brother. We're explained through a split-second flashback that their father is a wealthy man who had an affair which resulted in Sasugai here. He's upset his brother is always winning an upper hand, so he decided to become a skater too, only for him to break his ankle in an injury and can never skate again. And apparently later we find out they were close as children, which completely contradicts what he said in the beginning, but as I said, it feels like last-minute attempts at fixing something. So he decides to go for a guy who skated with him years ago who has lost his experience on the ice because he has a fiery personality? The fucking stretches in logic is just baffling here. If he wants a guy who can surpass his brother on the ice, then why not go for a student who's impressing a lot of people and help train him instead of a guy who stopped skating at 13? This isn't like Victor training Yuri because Yuri had the very obvious self-confidence of a sack of potatoes. This guy is overconfident and has no experience. The only reason I can think is because our protagonist here is about as smart and clever as those Da Vinci guys. Considering Maishima is the loud, rebel, idiot archetype done badly, he accepts this offer and they explore the world of figure skating, only this isn't solo or pair performances we're used to, no. Instead, we're introduced to skate leading. They very poorly explain what skate leading is because this is a made-up form of figure skating for the show. But it's basically identical to the performance skating you'd see at something like Disney on Ice. It's the same judging as regular figure skating, but unison is also put in there as well. It's up to Maishima and Sasugai to bring this team together to finally beat Shinozaki, an extremely flimsy plot of a bunch of idiots in a sport we hardly know anything about. Except here's the problem here. They don't do literally anything with figure skating. If you change the sport from figure skating to a breakdancing group, there would literally be 0 changes. Remember that figure skating is not a popular sport either, so there needs to be explanation for the scoring system and certain jumps. Because we're not going to understand how difficult a quadruple axel is compared to a quadruple toe loop. And not to mention how OP our rival and main characters are compared to actual competitive figure skating. Like, a quadruple axel has only ever been attempted in competitive figure skating in 2018. Even then, the jump was not successful. You think it'd be important to mention that kind of fact so the non-skating audience is super shocked when a team of 5 people do a quadruple axel in a competitive scene like that? While the idea of unison and cooperation are strong themes in any sports anime, this theme is completely sloppily put together. The major theme is that none of the characters feel fleshed out enough to feel like a believable team. They're all just a plain stereotype and practically argue with each other all the time to a point where I'm not rooting for them. I'm waiting for the show to be over. Some said these were complaints of Yuri on Ice too, but I'd like to say that for one thing, Yuri on Ice was single skating, so there was a lot less characters to focus on by comparison, and all of them felt about as well known as other figure skaters during a competition that aren't the ones you're rooting for. Well, I've heard there's a manga adaptation of this anime, and maybe that's doing a better job because a manga has a chance to go slower. The anime's plot here is both rushed and relies way too heavily on overused tropes in anime to draw in the form of thirsty 14-year-old audience who think 2 people standing next to each other means they're in love. Or squeeze money out of Yuri on Ice fans, whichever comes first. Not that I'm totally saying it's copying Yuri on Ice. There can be other sports anime doing the same sport that isn't totally copying, but the basic plot on paper is at least a little eyebrow-raising. You can have 2 sports anime of the same thing, but at least do something to be unique for goodness sake. Though I won't be going over characters for this video, because they are literally so bland and boring that I don't have anything to say about them. Any semblance of intrigue is gone when they completely skip over the most interesting parts for unnecessary drama that could literally be solved in one conversation. Overall, the story is a bland mess that does a poor job of actually making any semblance of stakes, and for a drama series, the drama is the same fucking shit I've seen in other anime that did this kind of story way better. I I will praise the animation itself. The way they animate the characters figure skating looks really damn good, and while I do notice recycled animation a lot, do remember that figure skating competitions are basically off one routine that you do over and over again for the rest of the season. The goal is to perfect your routine by the championship, so of course they're going to be using the same routine for the season. Though I do find it kind of lazy is the music choice for the skating is kind of literally the same 3 songs. Even Imagine Figure Skater on the DS, which had the same royalty-free songs, had a better variety than this. The style was pretty alright too. Yana Toboso is in charge of character designs, and while I do love Yana's work, I can tell she was definitely just paid to design some characters for marketing purposes and then yeet herself out. A lot of the characters look like ones from her other works. Sosugai looks like Ronald Knox had a baby with 707. Shinosaki looks like Charles Gray or that one guy from Bungo Stray Dogs. And Maishima looks like Reki from Skate the Infinity. Not her best character designs here. Aside from Yukimitsu Mochizuka, I don't know if this character is meant to be trans because this anime is so uninteresting that I don't think they'd be bold enough to make a trans character. But they do use female pronouns on themselves and they speak with a big sister dialect, but the wiki says he. I'm just playing it safe and saying they, them for the character in case any information comes out later where I'm wrong. Though it's a shame that they literally serve no purpose because they retired from skating but are still on the team. Sasugai is the manager, so I think one montage implies they're the costume designer. I have no idea, they literally never explain that. Overall, the animation is pretty good, and some character designs are alright, but the rest just feels like a standard halfway decent anime. I don't know how the hell this anime was directed by the creator of a genius series like Code Geass and designed by an incredibly talented artist like Yana Toboso and somehow fail. Like on paper this anime sounds amazing, but in execution it's a mediocre shit show. I feel like this premise and concept was meant to work as some form of visual novel or dating simulator. Like, I get strong generic visual novel vibes from this anime, almost like a figure skating version of something decent like Uta no Prince-sama, because I feel like that kind of route would have worked a lot better for this kind of story here. Not only is the story fucking awful, but characters are painfully bland to the point of annoyance. The soundtrack keeps using the same songs from the Nutcracker because they could only afford royalty-free music. It's visually decent and feels like nothing but pure fujoshi bait for preteens. I'm not saying all this as a Yuri on Ice fan, I'm saying this as a fan of figure skating. There's a lot of really interesting aspects to figure skating that you could use to tell amazing stories. From the fact that many figure skaters have to quit early because of how physically harsh this sport is to the stress of competition for trying to always push the envelope. It's doing none of that, and that's what's disappointing. Not to mention the poor explaining of figure skating as a sport. This anime is basically what I feared Yuri on Ice would be when I first saw the promo drop for it. Like, to a T, this is exactly what I thought would happen. If you want to see a good figure skating anime, just rewatch Yuri on Ice again like I did. If you want to watch what this director is really capable of, then please watch Code Geass. It's an amazing anime. And yes, I could be wrong that there are worse anime out there this year. However, considering how many people I saw shitting on this anime over everything else this season, I'd say this takes the cake for one of the worst anime of 2021. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope no one takes any offense to the fact that I shat on this anime so much. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, just as I am. So let me know down below what you think. Did you watch Skate Leading Stars? Did you love it? Did you hate it? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any older new subs would like to help support the channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who would like to help with video ideas or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, then I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!